talk about it as I go through them. All right. So number one reason why you should write more handwritten letters is it is a memorable way to keep in touch with people that you care about. And it's reaching out to them to say hello. Research says that writing letters can actually make you happier. So one of the things we did last year when we all went hybrid, or we all went distance learning, is the teachers wrote letters back and forth to each other, and it made us kind of happier because we were so isolated that it was like reaching out to one another and making sure everyone is okay. It also confirms the importance of that relationship with the person that is receiving this letter. Another kind of funny way to think about it is it's like a classy thing to do when you write a handwritten letter, and it makes it a little bit fun. And then it also helps you like think out what you're going to say. When you're writing a letter, you tend to plan out the things that you want to mention in the letter before you write it. And this is, it's easier than talking one-on-one when you have to think on the spot, and you're just, it's just giving you that pause time to really like think about what will be authentic in the letter. It's also a wonderful surprise when you get a letter in the mail. I sent out 75 letters to all the students last year during the pandemic, and it was just so they could smile and receive something that shows that they do matter. And it is, it's reassuring to people when people reach out, especially when you're not expecting it. It tends to be fun. And then the last thing is it's a tried and true tradition, meaning that we have done this as humans forever. This is the first way of communicating when you didn't live by anyone. It's easier now because we have the World Wide Web, and we have cell phones, and cell phone towers are everywhere, so you really have better connections. But it used to be the way you communicated with people that you didn't see very often, and it would be weeks before they got it. All right? So there's lots of benefits. Great. The next thing is you are going to raise your hand in your participation box if you have ever received a handwritten letter. Have you ever gotten a letter in the mail or delivered to your house? Raise your hand. Great. Awesome. Okay. The next thing is, do you think after you received that letter, did you feel special or anything? Like, were you happy you got the letter? If any of these statements kind of resonate with you, you're going to say, you're just going to raise your hand. So when you got the letter, was it memorable? Like, do you have the letter still? Did you keep it? Did it make you happy when you received that letter? Did it give you that reassurance that you are important to that person? You just raise your hand if these statements kind of, you can relate to them. And if you can't, that's okay. Because we are adding on to this assignment. All right. Great, so you put your hands down. Okay, now I do want to mention that Dear Martin is written in letter form in a lot of chapters that we're going to be reading, where it's half of present time, and then he goes back and he writes a letter. But I'm going to ask you a few questions to see where our understanding level is of what this letter actually is. So the first, I'm going to ask these questions. You're going to either turn your microphone on and explain it, or you can simply type it in the chat with what you think the answer is. And this is a safe place. You can take risks. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's just kind of like that discussion based. And then we grow on other people's like understanding. So the first thing is this letter actually going to Martin Luther King Jr.? How do you know? Is the letter that Justice is writing in our books going to Martin Luther King Jr., how do you know? It's either yes or no.
Like in real life.
Is it going to where he lives, or?
You have a yes or a no button on your participation box as well. So you can do that.
Someone has privately told me no.
Okay, I see a yes. I see a no. 2 no's.
Good. So, I'll kind of lead into this. Is Martin Luther King alive right now? Good. My same people are saying no, that's true. So, the answer is no, and we can't write letters to people after they're gone and send it in the mail, right? That's just, it won't get to them. So the answer is no. And then, do you think then this is more of a journaling activity? You can write yes or no. Do you think he's journaling? All right, good. Now, Jeffrey, you are correct. It is journaling. Why do you think he's writing this in letter form? This is an opinion, right? So there's no right or wrong answers. Why do you think he's writing this journal to Martin Luther King? We know he's not alive and he can't read it. So what would be another reason why he would choose to write to Martin Luther King in a journal, not actually sending the letters? Why would it be important to talk with Martin Luther King? Think kind of like what's happening in that story. Why is that important? I'm gonna wait for a little bit. Remember, the chat box is open and sharing ideas is good for like building that understanding of how we understand this text. Good, Jeffrey, yep. Jeffrey was saying there's a lot of racism. So maybe there was racism then, right? And now. And we have to kind of think of those marches originally were trying to get the rights to African Americans to vote, right? So Martin Luther King was trying to get the vote. They were trying to get equality so they could sit at a diner, right? Although those things happen now, there is still racism and there are still people that are excluded, all right? Oh, good. I didn't see that. Yes, I agree, lady. It is, I agree with your statement. That connection is a good place to start, yes.
And we can kind of, Jess mentioned this in some of his letters, doesn't he? He kind of writes in his letters like, it's weird for me to be writing to you. And then he shares a little bit about why he's doing it anyway.
So the reason that we're looking at this in more depth today is I'm going to be having you kind of try out this activity. So you're going to do something like what Justice is doing. First, I'm going to make all those connections, and then I'm going to explain the assignment. And then I'm going to make sure that you are all on Seesaw. Now, many of you are on our online journal platform, which is called Seesaw. We use it in a lot of different grades, but for this, we're journaling about our novel. Behind me is a whiteboard, and it says 44 out of 65 students have logged in to Seesaw. Now, I do want to make sure that everyone logs in today, and it's really important that you log in today because every 7 days, the password changes, and then you'll have to then again do this process each time. And if we're ready for it and we practice, it won't be so stressful. So the 20 people that have not logged on yet in all of 7th grade, we are working with you today. We want to alleviate that stress. We want it to go away so we can all make sure that we're on the right page. And I will get, I'll tell you how to log in at the very end. And then when you I'm not going to let you leave until you log on. I want all the questions answered. Okay. This is an assignment that is, might take us a little bit longer than the other ones that we've done. So moving on. All right. So I will explain everything. No one will be stressed out. We're going to wait to the end. All right. So here are benefits to journaling as a teenager. Okay. So Justice is a teenager. You are teenagers. This is a strategy that can actually help you. All right. So the first way that it helps you is it's going to reduce your stress levels. And you're doing that because you're explaining everything so you can kind of pinpoint what is bothering you. Okay. The next thing that it does for us is it kind of helps us understand ourself better. All right, so we're getting all that knowledge about ourselves because we're gonna see patterns of how we react to things, and we're gonna learn about ourselves. All right. The next thing is it actually helps us process the emotions that we're feeling. And those feelings are going to, Maxwell, you did join, yes. You are going to write out like what is making you upset, and then you're going to see patterns, and you're going to kind of build up those emotions as you go, because being a teenager is really hard, and you're going to have a bunch of different feelings, and to write it out can actually help us process what we're feeling. All right, and adults do this as well. Another thing it can do is it can raise your grades, believe it or not. When you are journaling to yourself, you are often writing goals to yourself, and then you try to accomplish them, right? And because you're journaling to yourself, so this is all about you. It's the only place in the world that's just helping you, right? So it can act as a checklist. And then the other thing it does is it helps us solve problems, because when we get our whole story out, and people are trying to help us, you can look back and be like, here's what I wrote down, here's what I was feeling, and then what were you feeling? Like, how can we work this out, right? So, because you know everything of how you reacted to that thing, that event, that action. And it will help not only you, but it can help you solve problems with your friends. So it is a really great way to solve problems. Also, this slideshow is in, you were sent wait, what time is it? You have been sent the assignment for today on your Google Classroom. On that assignment, there's all of the slides, a checklist, a link that you can use, and a couple other things so you won't get lost. So it has been sent to you, it just did it during class. Okay, so we're gonna move on and make this this lesson connected to justice and Martin Luther King. So justice goes one step further with this journaling to exercise by reaching out to a person who historically went through similar events, okay? And so he decides to write to Martin Luther King because the things that we are dealing with even today are injustice against our diverse communities. And having that person that already understands it helps us kind of pick apart that process, all right? So he does this to first relate these historical issues to what's going on right now. So he's making a direct link between what went on during the civil rights movement with MLK and to what is going on in his life right now. And we have that benefit of also having our graphic novel that does section by section kind of living what Martin Luther King and John Lewis were doing during that movement. So we have that background knowledge, right? We're reading 2 books, it's a lot, but it's making that whole picture so we understand it better, all right? And then the next thing it does is it identifies the beliefs and attitudes and values that play roles in this decision-making process of these individuals, all right? So it's identifying what they believe and the attitude they have towards that belief, and then it kind of help us understand why they're doing the things that they are doing in this book. All right, so it's just telling us their values, and it helps us see the motivations to why they made that decision. And then the last thing it does is, because we have our 2 books and they're working together, this last thing helps us evaluate those decisions made in history. So we get to sit back and we get to see character A and character B making decisions, and then we get to analyze or explain why they did that. We get to be like in little movies, right? We're just making sure that we understand our characters. So it does those 3 things very well. And this is a beginning assignment. It's not going to be perfect, and we are here to help you. All right, this is a lot of information. Okay, so I'm going to explain our task. It is due on Sunday, but because it is a holiday, or not a holiday, but it's an extended weekend for you because teachers have teacher training day, you will have Thursday and Friday off, and some people might be leaving, and that's when it's going to be okay if you don't get it done right away, but just let me know when you're going to get this assignment done. But you probably have time today to finish it up. So your task is, much like Justice, you'll be writing a letter to MLK or to John Lewis about social injustice you are seeing in the United States or in the world. All right, so it might extend. And the first things you're gonna have to do is, number 1, log into your Seesaw account, which I'm gonna help you with. Don't worry about that right now. And then you're going to, the next step is you're going to choose which character you're gonna write to, which historical figure you're gonna write to, right? You're either gonna write to Martin Luther King Jr. or John Lewis, which is our March book. That is his story. So it's very similar contributions to that civil rights movement, and you can choose who you write to. If you're having a huge conundrum, like you don't know who to decide because you like both of them so much, you can flip a coin, and the heads can be Martin Luther King Jr. and the tails can be John Lewis, and you can write to them. All right, if it's going to stress you out, we have easy strategies, right? And the next thing, step 3, is you're going to choose a current event to focus on with the social injustice. And I do have a website that's going to outline like 9 ideas of things that are very relevant this year for social justice issues. And I will explain those in a sec as well. And then the last thing is you're going to have a checklist to make sure all of these necessary pieces are in your letter. So it's going to be very well laid out, I'm hoping. In my brain it was. If it's not, again, be like, Miss H, what were you trying to say here? And I'm going to help you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this blog that I found. The link is also on your classroom page, so you don't need to worry about where to find it. It's in several places. It's in the slideshow that you've gotten sent to you, as well as there's a link for you. So I'm gonna go through some 9 ideas that you can choose from. And if you have your own ideas, you can totally use your ideas. We all have different values and beliefs, and I wanna honor that. So the first thing you can write about is our voting rights. And this year in particular, it's in the news, it's everywhere. It is an election year. There's conflict on voting by mail. There's conflict of who can vote. And it's very important that everyone has equal rights to be able to vote. So that is something you can focus on. Another thing you might care about is climate justice, and this is really relevant in Minnesota especially, and in the Midwest, is we have a ton of things that have gone on in recent years that our climate was in danger. 2 years ago, in the summer, they were going to sell the Boundary Waters, which is this huge open land that has been saved since 1935. They've made it like pristine. You can drink the water out of the lake. It's so clean. They were going to sell it to miners, and they were going to mine out materials that are found there. And so I did do some peaceful protests for that. I care about the Boundary Waters. It's one of the only places in the world that's like it. And if we lost it, it would be detrimental. Also, we have pipelines that went through North and South Dakota that were ruining the environment, and it was going into the territory that doesn't belong to the United States. It is owned by our indigenous native tribes, and There was a huge thing on that if you want to focus on that. There's a ton of things in the Arctic. We've seen our polar bears. They're looking really sad. You can look into any of those things. I don't know how much a 7th grader is aware of health benefits, but with the pandemic, it had some inequalities with people's health care and what is covered. And if you want to focus on that, you can. Another big one that's not only in the United States, but worldwide is a refugee crisis. And that's when people leave to go to a safer place. It's a migration, so they're safe. And there has been worldwide uproars about it. There's a huge one in Myanmar, what was Burma at one point. Thailand's going through some stuff. Of course, the United States has children in camps. It's a worldwide crisis. In our book, we're talking about racial injustice, and that's a big one that we see in our communities, and we know people are hurting in our families and are close to us. So that's a big one that you guys are aware of. The income gap, if you want to talk about money and economics, you can talk about the income gap. With the pandemic, the disparities have increased with the who has things and who has not. Jobs were lost. People couldn't find toilet paper. There's a ton of things with the income gap. Gun violence is huge in the United States. Hunger and food insecurities, again, with the pandemic, this has been huge. Schools offer breakfast and lunch at reduced or free. But because schools are closed down, people aren't getting food. And then equality, of course, is our big one that we've been talking about. And equality is our communities, our diverse communities, people of color are treated in unfair ways. And not just them, it's a lot of different groups. So you can focus on that. And those are just ideas. If you have your own idea, that is completely fine. I'm just asking you to talk about your truth, what you believe. And yeah, so that is our overview of things that you can choose. So don't be afraid. And if you have, if you're not sure, like, that's okay. Just, I want you to really think about that today. And then the last thing is I have a checklist, and this checklist is gonna look, it's better when I show you the seesaw. I'm gonna show it to you twice. I do apologize. First is you're gonna type the date of your letter. It's gonna look very much like the chapters in the book. It's going to actually mimic that. So you can always take your book out and look at those examples, especially on page 10. We're gonna actually follow that outline, that format. So you write the date, you tell us who you are writing to, either Martin Luther King Jr. or John Lewis, and then you're gonna write a sentence of why you are writing to them and why it should be them that listens. And then you're gonna introduce who you are as a student, and it's gonna be follow exactly what Justice does in the book. It's gonna say, quick intro, hi, I'm, and your name. And then you're gonna go, I'm a student at Community Peace Academy. Right now, we are learning about this in this class. You're just gonna explain what we're doing in this class. If you could do a couple of sentences, that would be great, because we're learning a lot of things. And next, you're going to explain something that's happening, that social injustice that you're concerned about. You're gonna explain what that is, and then you're gonna explain why you care about that issue. So that's where your opinion comes in. You're gonna, I care because my family, I care because of the news, but expand on that, expound. And then you're gonna sign your letter. So great. And then I'm gonna show you the seesaw. So I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna go to a different site. I'm gonna go into your actual task and I'm gonna project it. Okay. Here's what your seesaw looks like. Those of you that haven't logged in, again, we're gonna We're going to help you in a second. Don't feel stressed yet. I'm just going to go over what it looks like. So this is your letter to MLK or John Lewis. Hello, eager scholars. I hope this activity is both challenging and relevant today. We'll be writing a letter, much like our main character. I have a template for you to follow. It is, there are blanks for you to fill in your opinions, and it helps us kind of narrow down that thinking because I'm giving you the template. But I do want your truth, and I want you to expand on your thinking. Remember that. It's not, I want you to go above and beyond with what you are thinking, right? You are not wrong. I just want to know. And then in addition, I would like you to use some of the vocab words that we learned yesterday. I want you, I said too, that is proven to be very challenging so far today. So if you could use one word from our vocab list, that would be amazing. Okay, and again, you can always reach out to Miss Olson and I if you are having trouble with that. But it is challenging, and that's the biggest challenge you will face today, is using that word from yesterday. And then I do have a glossary that I put up on the stream so you can access all of those words. Okay, and then I do have I have the picture of the book. It is page 10 and 11, and it's, I have given you, I've just did little notes next to it. So there's the date, here's who you're writing to, this is why you've chosen to write to them. Here's where you describe yourself as a student. And then the last piece, for this book, it's actually really long, but I just want you to explain the social justice issue that you are worried about and why you care about it. All right, so that's for sure 2 sentences. But if you want to explain it more, that would be awesome, because then we understand better. So the more details we use in our writing, the more clear it is. And that's just, it's writing practice. I know this is the first large writing assignment I've given you, and I just want you to try your very best. And I'm gonna make little comments that are encouraging during this process. So that's first and foremost important. And then what I'm gonna do right now is in the chat box, I want you to raise your hand if you feel confident. And it's okay if you don't, but I do want you to raise your hand if you're like, I understand this assignment. Good. It's okay if you don't quite understand it yet. Okay. Now, for those of you that understand it, I would like you to go forth and go into your seesaw, and I want you to try and do this assignment on your own, because you're confident and you're ready, okay? For those of you that need a little bit of help, I'm guessing the people that want the most help are logging into this site. It is a little bit challenging. The first thing I want you to know is you need to log into your, you need to log in with your Google account. So it's, again, that scrolling. You have to scroll a little bit down, and it is a box that says log in with Google. I am going to do that process right now for you. Now, I do have it automatically going towards a test student, so I am going to show you that process. Right now. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to web.seesaw.me, and I'm going to put this in the chat box. And this is the website that you're going to go into initially to log in. This is your first step, is to go to this web page. All right. And then you see that this is a remote learning with Seesaw. On the right corner is a blue button that says log in. All right. This is a process in which you will have to go into. Now, mine might automatically log in, and it did, to my test student. All right. Now, if it doesn't let you log in, I am going to also post the login key. So web.seesaw.me. And then I'm going to make sure that you have this code. And again, I said it refreshes the password every 7 days. So if you haven't logged in yet, this is why it changed. And it does that. And you might have to do this process more times than you would like. My internet's being really slow. That's not good. It might crash. Oh, maybe it's because I wrote the web browser name wrong. There we go. It is. It was me. Now it's thinking. Okay, so I'm going to post the code in our chat box. Yes, that is you. I want you to log in with Google, but you might need the code anyway. Because when you're logging in with Google, everything is connected to your Google account. And it makes our lives a lot easier. It makes our lives easier for Miss Olson and I, because everything's connected, as well as you. It's the thing, all right? It just helps us review all of those things. Okay, so once you've logged in, you're gonna see this assignment. And it gives you the book. Of course, your book is going to be easier to read than my little picture, I guess. So you might need that, or you can probably make it bigger in some way that I can't figure out. But everyone should have their books at home. And if they don't, you will someday soon. All right, and so the first thing to do is you can look at your books, and then what it's gonna ask you to do is you're gonna add a response. Okay, and does everyone see my template? Did it pop up? Is it sharing, Ms. Olson?
Yep.
Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I am gonna fill in the blanks, and I'm gonna edit, oops. I'm gonna edit my note. I'm gonna type today's date, because, oops, it's not 2010. And I'm gonna choose John Lewis. I did want to make sure that you could see where I want you to add stuff. So I made lines, but they're not long enough. Okay, so just note that these are not for scale. I am writing to you today because I am concerned about how people are treated in the United States. How people, diverse groups of people are treated in the United States based off of their, I'm going to use the word, I'm going to use complexion. There, oops. Which would be the color of their skin. And then I have my first word down. And an intro is I am, my first name is Sabra. I am a student at, I'm gonna write my whole name of my school. If I could type and teach at the same time, this would be so much easier. Okay, right now I'm learning about racial inequalities. By reading 2 books. All right, in my ELA class, right? And I'm concerned with I'm going to say police profiling and stereotypes that are hurting our people of color. Okay, so, and this is, I want to expand more, but this is just an example of what you are going to be asked to do. So first and foremost, will you raise your hand if you are in Seesaw right now? Good. I have like a million Post-its on my other screen, so I'm just gonna take some of those down because I kill too many trees and I don't know what the adhesive's made out of, but I assume it's not good. All right, so for those of you that are not, are you having trouble logging in? We're gonna make sure that that is taken care of before we move on. Is anyone having trouble logging in? Good.
If you don't have it open yet, try it right now and see if
So
you
we
can
know.
open it easy.
And there's a chance that you have other assignments that are also due, and that is, that's okay. I want you to work on this one right now. And they are on chapter reviews. It's, if you want to write a couple of sentences for summaries, that would be best. If you could do all of them today, but I understand that you have classes all day and you have lots of work, but I do want you to start this assignment today. So it is called Your Letter. That is what I want you to work on. Nice, you did need the code, woo! Good. All right, is anyone still feeling nervous about what they're gonna write about? Okay. It doesn't have to be about what's going on in our book. I would look at some of those other ideas on that website that I provided to you to see if any of those are kind of more, you have more of a connection to them. It is about like what you are feeling. So it doesn't have to be what I wrote. You never have to feel like you're wrong. You're not wrong. You're just, you are concerned with what you are concerned with, and that's okay. All right, now, Sakira, the code is up. I'm gonna post it again. I wonder if I